Okay, I've attempted this several times, but my kids keep interrupting. So now if they do, I'm just gonna let them come in. I wanted to start documenting through video my experience with the medical field and naturopaths and my health in general. This one is going to just be my back history of my health and the things that I've been tested for and gone through. And I'm gonna do a birth story for each of my kids because people have asked about those as well. But those will be different videos and one per child, so they're not super long. So we're gonna go way back. When I was born, my mom said for the first 4 months, I was inconsolable. Cried and screamed all day, all night. She didn't know what was wrong with me. At 4 months, she put me on formula. She thought maybe she's just really hungry. So let me switch to formula. Maybe I'm just not giving her enough. Ironically, I did stop crying, but come to find out later, it probably was not because I was hungry that I was crying, but because whatever my mother was eating, I was allergic to. And so passing through the breast milk really hurt my stomach, and she didn't know. I do remember in elementary school, eating really hurt my stomach, and not everything obviously, but a lot of things. But I never thought to pinpoint what I ate at that age. You don't think about those things when you're in elementary school. And then I remember, I think it was in 3rd or 4th grade, something, I would have a bloody nose every single day without fail. No idea why, no idea why. I would have headaches and nosebleeds every single day. So, and then one day they just stopped. It was very weird. But in junior high is when things started to get pretty bad, where when I would eat, I was in so much pain that it would either come back up on its own, or there'd be times where I had to force it because it was better to throw it up myself than to keep it in my system for days and days and just be in agony. So that's when the testing really began. I remember being in and out of doctor's offices for years with no answers. They did every test, endoscopies, colonoscopies, CAT scans, MRIs, the thing where you drink that barium stuff and it lights up your insides so they can see what's going on. Ultrasounds, blood work, samples of every kind, but nobody had answers. And then at 14, I got my first menstrual cycle, and it was weird, and then I didn't get one for like a year, and then they were off and on. They decided she needs to be on birth control because that will regulate everything and she'll be fine. No, come to find out, and people know now, that was the worst thing they could have done. And to be on birth control for 10 years screwed up a lot of stuff. I ended up having endometriosis and cysts frequently, ovarian cysts that would rupture to this day. In fact, they've gotten worse the last couple years. And most of that is linked now to being on birth control at a young age, and what it does to you is actually really awful. All these tests and no answers, and it got to the point where the doctors were causing more harm than they were helping me. It was always we don't know, let's label her. It went from IBS to possible diverticulitis to possible Crohn's to you have polyps that need to be removed to telling my parents I had an eating disorder because of throwing things up or not wanting to eat. Because instead of trying to understand what was going on, they just diagnosis that was inaccurate and gave me a medication. Most of what they did give me to take would make me feel more sick. Fast forward to 20, I was 20, and I wanted to go to China to teach English. And I was really excited to go. My contract was a year, and I planned on staying even longer than that, or maybe transferring to Japan or somewhere else, right? But I only lasted 3 months, and here's why. Right before I went in, I went to the doctor because I don't even remember why. I was feeling sick again. And I told them, hey, these are my plans. I'm going to China. Kind of asking them, what should I do if these things happen while I'm gone? They told me, well, first of all, you have to be fully vaccinated in order to travel abroad and teach English, which I did not want to do. That's a whole other topic. My contract was already signed. My plane tickets were bought. I was ready to go. And so I did it. I let them. Within 48 hours, I started getting real sick. My whole body just ached. I was sweaty. My head was throbbing. I just felt awful. It was like the flu times 100. And it just continually got worse as I was there. So by month 2 in China, I had gained like 30 pounds, but I wasn't eating very much. I had edema. You could push and, you know, like your skin stays in. No explanation why. And everything I ate hurt again, but it was at a nerve level, like just touching me hurt. By the way, I did not have to get vaccinated. They lied to me. No other teacher there did, and no other teacher got sick. We worked at the same school, lived in the same apartment. We always went out to eat together because they said, you guys need to stay together for safety. So we did. But nobody could explain why I was so sick. I went to hospitals there with one of my adult students, actually, and she was my translator. And she was amazing and did great. But even with my translator, the language barrier was really difficult for them to navigate what to do or what I was trying to explain how I was feeling. Also, it was just, the hospital conditions were horrific. For everybody out there, also a whole other subject, who are pushing this socialized medicine, you don't want it. There are no separate rooms. It is one large gathering space, like a waiting room, but huge. Chairs lined wall to wall. You can barely walk between the rows, and there's only a few nurses, and they're trying their hardest, but obviously they're incredibly overwhelmed. It didn't matter if you were bleeding, throwing up, coughing, you're all in the same room. And not only that, but they would use the same needle multiple times on different patients. So first of all, I was like, there's no way you're putting a needle in me, for one. In fact, she came up to me to take my blood, and the needle was already out of the package, and I told my translator, absolutely not. I want her to go get a new needle, and I will watch her open it, and then she can stick me. And the nurse was upset, and I don't know if she got in trouble or what, but she did it, and that was the only way I would let them do that. And then if you ever need to give a sample, China, most places do not have Western toilets, but they are still holes in the ground, and there's no like plumbing. They use a bucket of water to then wash it away just down the hallway when it gets full. Okay, it's disgusting. You walk into the bathroom, if you can call it that, and there's literally just feces and throw up and urine everywhere. I don't even need to explain the smell because I'm sure you can imagine it. It got to the point where I said, you know what? I can't, maybe I'm spoiled, but I can't handle this. And I want to go back to the States. I remember I called my sister that night, and I was on my futon in my tiny little Chinese apartment in a ball, sobbing. And I said, Jenny, I think I'm going to die. Like, I'm going to die here. And she's obviously upset and worried. And so she buys me a plane ticket home because I hadn't been paid yet. And at the time, my brother was living in Missouri going to chiropractic school. And he's like, hey, I know this really good chiropractor. He's a naturopath, uses a lot of Eastern medicine. I think he could really help you. So, he said, you can come live with me. So I did that. I flew out to Missouri and stayed with my brother for like 6 months. In that time, I worked for this doctor, and I also worked at the Humane Society and got treatment from the doctor. So the first things we worked on were, first of all, detoxing from the shots that they forced me to get or lied to me about getting, which made almost all the difference. And then the second thing we looked for were any possible parasites and allergens, things like that. We did find a parasite, and we were able to link it back to pork. So we did a parasite cleanse for that too, which was so gross, some of the things I had to drink and eat, but it worked. Like, I felt a lot better, and I started losing all that weight or all that water retention, and I was back to normal within a few months, back to my like normal size, and feeling a ton better. Things were good for a while, but not eating wise. Like, I felt better as far as getting all of the toxins out of my body, but I did not feel better when I was eating. I was still very ill, and things would make me sick, and I was throwing up or just not eating enough or whatever. So again, in and out of the doctors, they did another colonoscopy, and they did another endoscopy, and they said, okay, it's gotten so bad that this is what our protocol should be for you, what we think. We think that you need to have your gallbladder removed because it's not functioning properly. Part of your colon and part of your small intestine need to be removed. From the tests we've run, we can see the damage being done, but we don't know what's causing the damage. But we do know that if we don't get it removed, that it can spread and cause even more problems. So we need to remove the damaged parts for your own good. This would have left me with a colostomy bag at 23. I obviously did not want that. However, I was in so much pain, and the way they described it in spreading was also a terrifying thought. And so, against my better judgment, I said, okay, well, if you think this will fix it, I'll do it. They said, well, it won't fix it, but it'll take away what's wrong now, and then we can keep doing tests. Which I didn't love that answer either, but I thought, okay, if it buys me some time, I'll do it. So, ironically, or miraculously, my mother had been seeing a naturopath at the same time during all this. And she said, Heidi, I really think you should come in and see her at least once before you do this surgery. I said, okay. So I go and I see her, and she says, hey, I have this really simple test I'd like you to do. You send it off to a lab. The downside to it is insurance doesn't pay for it and it's kind of expensive. She's sent off this test. The day before my surgery was scheduled, the results came back, and the naturopath said, Heidi, you have celiac disease. It is so apparent in every test, and it's bad. You just need to avoid gluten, and your body will be okay, and it should heal itself. She said, so gluten includes wheat, barley, and rye. Avoid them 100%, not even a little in anything you eat, and see how you feel. So I called my doctors, and I canceled my surgery, and I said, you know what? I was just diagnosed with celiac disease, something that you guys have not been able to find for over 10 years. So I'm canceling my surgery. And of course their answer was, well, that is not our expert advice, and you're going against medical protocol or advice or whatever. And, just so you know, we think that's a bad idea. So I don't care. I'm doing it anyway. Cancel it. So we canceled it. By day 2 of not eating gluten, I could already tell a difference. By week 2, I was like a new person. By 6 months, totally better. I could eat anything, obviously gluten-free, and was fine. It was amazing. And the thought of what the doctors were going to do to me at 23 years old, before I'd had children, before anything, makes me so angry. Some people don't understand my aversion to hospitals and doctors in the medical field, because for over a decade I was just this lab rat. They didn't know what was wrong. They never offered things that could have solved it. They just kept doing test after test after test with zero answers, and started literally wanting to cut pieces of me out without even a solution. It was just to fix a symptom. And so maybe now people who didn't understand why I didn't want to go to doctors unless it was life or death will get it. Because they were killing me. They weren't helping, they were hurting. And not every doctor is like that, but the doctors that I worked with, and it was several, were. So, then there's been other doctors that have been amazing, especially during my childbirthing years, where they saved me and my baby. I am not against modern medicine, but I am absolutely against the hamster wheel of, we don't know what's wrong, we're just going to keep running tests and throwing pills at you, because that is not the answer for anybody. So anyway, that brings me to the last 2 years, and then I'm going to wrap up this video. My health has started to go downhill again. I started getting really, really severe headaches, to the point of blacking out. I couldn't even stand up, or I would fall over. Just I'd have to crawl to go to the bathroom. I have pictures. I don't think I'll post them, but my face is so swollen. My eyes are like slits. And I finally went into the doctor. I was like, I don't think this is normal. So anyway, I go in and they do a CAT scan on my head, and they find blood clots, several, leading up to my brain. And so they're like, whoa, this is a big deal. And this is what's causing your headaches. So I won't go into detail about how I got rid of them or how they went away for another time, but they did go away quickly on their own, which I was really, really lucky to have. But then my health, as far as my digestion, started getting worse again. I don't know if I was getting more allergies or just becoming extra sensitive to cross-contamination of gluten. Not sure, but it was getting really bad. And last October, it was pretty severe. I ended up in the ER again, which again, I only go if I absolutely have to go. And they did a scan of my stomach, and it was an MRI. They found a large bowel obstruction, as well as some of my intestines were actually twisted. So they're like, well, there's your pain. Nothing's getting through. They said it will either fix itself or you'll have to have surgery. Like, okay, here we are back on that. Said, well, I'm obviously going to see if it will fix itself first before I undergo any type of surgery. They said, okay, you need to do a liquid diet as much as you can, and try not to be stressed. So, all right, I'll do my best. So within a few weeks, it was a little bit better, but I did do a liquid diet for quite a while. And then that was 8 months ago. So even now, I eat very little. I'm eating 1,000 calories. That's a good day. The average lately has been around 500 to 800 calories a day. I obviously know I can't sustain that, which brings me to now. In the last 2 weeks, let's toss in some migraines. Don't know why I have those. I decided to finally go in to get scanned. I wasn't going to, but somebody convinced me to. So I went in and they did a CAT scan on my head. There was nothing wrong, luckily. No tumors, no brain, no bleeds, no swelling, no clots, nothing. So again, no answers. Frustrating, really frustrating. I took 800 milligrams of ibuprofen a few times, and that would just barely take the edge off. But I don't want to live off of ibuprofen or Excedrin or Advil or whatever. Like, I don't want to do that. So, which brings me to last Friday. I went in for NAET testing, and I'm sure a lot of people know what that is, and meridian therapy. So my first therapy is today, and I'm really excited for it because if this works, it could really change my life, and I could do things that are normal and not be in pain all the time or have some sort of stupid symptom making me feel like crap. I want to be feeling good for myself and to be the most active, fun mom, present mom I can be. What they do is they test all these different frequencies. I know it sounds weird. Look it up. Look up beehives and the frequency they give off and how healing they are. And how everything has a frequency, and it all depends on how your body reacts to that frequency. So the doctor kind of explained it as like having a Ferrari or a Lamborghini or some really nice car, and you put all the best things in it, the best gas, the best oil, but if the engine is out of tune, it won't matter. It still is not going to run right. So he compared that to my body, where he knows that I eat well, I exercise as often as I possibly can. I don't eat fast food. I avoid food dyes and preservatives and processed foods and just stuff that is bad for your body, stuff I put on my body. I read labels on everything. I try really, really hard to avoid anything bad. And yet I'm still feeling like crap. So the results of this really were not shocking, but really eye-opening, and it made sense to me why I still don't feel well. And I'll show you real quick why. Okay, so red is bad, okay? Green's good, yellow's bad, red is bad. I have 38 red things. So what this means is these things on this list, my body views as a threat instead of using it the way it should be used. So some big ones, for example, instead of my body absorbing these things, it thinks it's a threat. Calcium, iron, and vitamin D. Obviously they're not bad and I need them. And then the second worst thing on my list are my hormones. We're gonna blame any emotion or crying that happens. We're gonna blame it on emotion or my hormones and just how crappy this past week has been for other reasons. And the other things that showed up, obviously grains are gonna show up really high because of my celiac. And then yeast is actually number one. So if anybody knows anything about a yeast problem, that can wreak havoc in your body as well. So today, I'm really excited, my first test, or my first therapy. So the whole thing about this is you have 12 meridians in your body. That's how Chinese medicine breaks it down into 12 meridians. And if your meridians are blocked, your whole body is going to be out of sync and not doing so well. So the whole point is to use acupuncture and a few other therapies to unblock those meridians. Let's say iron is one of the things that my body doesn't respond to in a positive way. So the idea behind it is you hold in your hand, this is gonna be weird and like witchcrafty to people. It's a joke between someone and me, but the whole idea behind this whole thing is you hold the allergen and then your body's rewired to view it as a good thing, which is really exciting because your meridians only take 2 hours each to reset. So you need about 25 hours after the treatment to avoid this one thing. After that, you will no longer have an aversion to it. Like, how cool is that to be like symptom free and like not allergic to something in a day? So really excited. I hope it works. I will keep you posted. I don't know if I'll be able to take videos in my session, but I will post one after and let you know how I feel, how it went, what we did, and what exactly it is, because I'm sure I don't understand it fully yet, but I will, and I will let you know how it goes. So wish me luck, and hopefully it will go really well.